Hey, what's up? This is Aaron from Unison. Today I wanted to go over some common arrangement mistakes that, new producers might make when they're first starting out making music. I know me, myself, I definitely went and made a lot of mistakes over the years of producing and making music, until I feel like I've kind of dialed in a pretty good system for myself. And so I just wanted to kind of go over some common mistakes that producers might make when it comes to arranging their songs and just making your songs actually stand out and have each definitive part when creating a song and having it all flow together too. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 different mistakes that producers make and what can be done to correct these mistakes. So the first thing I want to talk about is just adding too many elements, and especially when you're a new producer, you just want to add and add and add because you're just like, oh, I found this, oh, I made this, I did that, and I just want to add it all, and I just want to make this the craziest, most like energetic song, and just like lots of stuff going on, and wow, this is so amazing. But then you listen back and it's just a huge mess of just like ideas and sounds, and they're all kind of fighting to be like number one, to be in the spotlight. They're trying to be at the front. And there are some elements that need to be accompanying like a leading element instead of them all fighting for attention to be at the front. There are some elements that will need to carry the top line or whatever it might be. And so I think knowing when to go and subtract elements will help greatly in making your arrangements more stronger, and only having a couple elements playing at a time with other elements being the accompanying elements, just kind of carrying the track underneath. And then the top line can be the one that's moving it forward, but you just have that like basis underneath it that's just kind of holding the song together. So we'll jump over here into Ableton, and I have this little section here, and basically what I did is I took all of the elements from this little demo I made and I put them all at the very beginning. And so this is what it would sound like if I were to be playing all of the elements at once right at the very beginning. And it sounds good, but there's just like all of this energy just coming in all at once, and there's just a lot going on right from the get-go. And so the way I see it, you got to kind of ease up to like that energy to where it's like that big that big moment, that like the euphoria or the drop where it's like, oh yeah, like that big energetic moment. And by going in instead, taking away all of this and just having a couple of elements that are much more softer in energy, they're not super harsh, they're just kind of like setting the mood for the song, if you will, then you can kind of gradually ease up to that moment where all of these elements can be happening at once. Then you can lead up to that moment where having a lot of these elements will sound good and it will make sense versus just coming at the very beginning. The next mistake I want to talk about is having no defined sections in your song. When you're making a song, you want to have some type of variation happening, so that way it'll keep the listener interested. If it's just the same thing happening the whole time over like 3 minutes or something like that, the listener is going to lose interest after a while because it's just the same thing happening over and over and over. And so by having variation, even if it is slight, it's like these new elements that will kind of perk up the listener's ear and bring their attention back into the song. So here in my project, I have set these locators here to kind of define each section of a song. And so by doing that, I can go and visually see where I might need to go and make changes. Now, like I said, it is good to have some type of constant happening throughout. And so while I did go and change the synths slightly in these 2 parts, this particular synth layer is happening through both parts, but also the chord progression itself is happening all the way even into the drop or the chorus and even after. And so if we listen here, this is how just the verse part sounds. And so, there's no drums except for that snap that comes in halfway. And then over here is where the bulk of the drums kind of kick in, and then the synth layer changes up. And so here I have this main synth. It's just a bit more of a bright synth. It is tiny, however, I do have this accompanying layer, which is this guitar sound. And so it brings in that mid-range, but this higher synth layer kind of keeps that top in, so that way it kind of pushes through the mix a bit more. And then over here in this section, I have this more filtered kind of steel drum-ish sounding synth. And then of course with this top layer. And then to fill it out, I have the bass here. So again, like I said, there can be these different changes happening, but it is good to have some type of constant happening throughout your song. So that way it's not like drastically changing to where the main idea is kind of lost. And so as you can see here, there are these different elements changing, but there's still this constant that's happening. So that way, the main idea can repeat throughout. So that way there's that bit of repetition. A listener does like that repetition because it is familiar to them, but also having that bit of variation as well can keep the listener interested. This kind of ties into the next mistake I feel a lot of producers make, and that is making sections either too long or too short, mainly the former. And so if we look here, again, I mentioned earlier I had these different locators to kind of visualize where certain parts might be. Now, as you can see here, I do have some different reference tracks that I went and pulled up just to kind of show that I based these different locators based on, a lot of current music that's going on right now. And so here, I'm not going to play too much of these due to copyright, but as you can see here, this one has an intro, and then if I play just a short snippet, it goes into a verse. There's no drums there or anything like that. And then as you can see here by the waveform, it gets a bit more higher energy because of the drums. And then over here is the actual drop. And then same thing here in this Charlie XCX song. It just has a little intro. Now in this one, there are some drums, but they're filtered. But however, here in the verse, again, no drums, just singing. And then over here, once again, the drums come in. Now here, it does switch up a little bit. There is more of a longer pre-chorus. It looks like that this actual entire section is the verse itself. It just has drums come in. But however, in terms of the production side, it still kind of follows the same format as this first track. And then, in this last one, this Flume track, it is a bit different. The intro is much shorter. It's just this kind of fade in sound. But again, it goes into a vocal. As far as summer goes. And this one ends up once again going a bit longer than just this 8 bars here. These two, it seems they are both 16 bars each. So either way, it seems like 8 to 16 bars per section is a good kind of guide, if you will, when it comes to different sections. And then again, here we have a build-up. Again, like drums come in, but this is only 8 bars here. And then of course the drop itself, and it looks like that the drop is about 16 bars in length, kind of like this verse over here. Generally, when it comes to doing your chorus or your drop, it's good to kind of have it a little bit longer than your verse or your pre-chorus, because that is the main part of the song. That's like either the most catchiest part or that is the part with the most energy. And so it's good to kind of carry that out a bit, so that way it sticks with the listener versus having it be more short. The fourth mistake that I see a lot of producers make when they're arranging their songs is that they have no direction in terms of song structure. And so the song just kind of goes on this various tangent to where, you kind of don't understand where the song is going. And by having that direction and by making sure that each part is essential to the song, then it will make your song stand out more and each part will make sense. So again, looking here at these reference tracks, I just go and use a reference track like this just to help me kind of lay out a general structure. And then in terms of the actual elements, I can always go and change later to make it my own and make it unique, etc. So by using a reference track like this, it's a good way to kind of set these markers like how I did here to go and kind of visualize each section in the song. And so that way you at least have a direction. So, if there's like a song that you're inspired by and you really want to make a song in the same arrangement structure, definitely go and, download the song, drop it into your DAW, and just kind of set markers based on where you see these different waveform changes, kind of like what I was showing you previously. The fifth and final thing I want to talk about today is just keeping things simple. Now, you might have heard Kenny Beats say, don't overthink things like that, but yeah, honestly, keeping it simple and just making each sound very quality and very good, very rich by by layering sounds with different scents like what we demonstrated earlier, and also by just making sure that each element serves a purpose versus just adding a bunch of stuff that may not actually add anything to the song, if that makes sense. And so just by keeping it simple and just making sure that each element has its purpose, then you can make an even greater song that will really stand out and connect with people that way. All right, everyone, well, that's it from me today. If you like the sounds that were used in this demo today, most of the sounds come from Unison's essential packs. There'll be a link in the description below where you can pick those up if you want to check them out. If you like today's video, consider subscribing to the channel, drop a comment below with any feedback or thoughts that you might have on this video, and we'll see you next time.